my question to you is, what did you learn in 2020? Like, what was your takeaway from 2020?
Okay, so let me tell you an experience.
And we haven't talked about this before.
Okay, so let me tell you about this experience I had, which was mind-blowing, which made me think about my 2020 and also just think about life and how I see things. It's going to sound trippy, but just brace with me. So a good friend of mine invited me over. He was like, I'm going to do a sound bath, right? And he was
what?
like, a sound bath.
What the hell is that?
You know, with
this some LA shit. Like, what the fuck
wait. See, I told you to bear with me. So we had like the bowls, the pillows, the lights, and he had like a shaman come in. It was like, and
what's
we had
a shaman for us people?
Y'all could go to Google because it's like I know the word, and I'm not even going to front. Like it's like
a person.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual guide or something.
Okay.
It just aesthetically it looked beautiful,
okay.
right? And we had. Like what he added to it besides the sound bath is we had this little like bowl thing, right? And inside of it, I'm gonna be transparent, we had like grounded shrooms, right? And we had to like eat it or drink it, whatever
what was
it
this?
is.
New Year's Eve?
No. This was literally like at the beginning of the year. It's a small gathering. Like we all took a COVID test beforehand because that's like the thing before you go out now. So it's probably like 8 of us with like the woman who was there, and she had the bowls, and like we all had this like grounded mushroom thing. And when I say that shit was so trippy, and it took me on a ride to a point of like I saw myself, it was like a spiritual awakening. Like I saw myself, things that I've dealt with, how I need to deal with things, how I show up. Like it was so crazy. It was like an 8-10 hour like voyage adventure. You know the way they think like a spiritual awakening is all like, oh, all namaste and chill. No, that shit broke me down, built me back up. Like to a point I saw my grandmother, like I saw friends who passed. No, but it's like,
I can't even do like edibles. Like I took an edible recently, and it was like 10 milligrams or however they do it. It was like the lowest dosage, and I was fucking tripping out. Like I thought the hotel was trying to kidnap me.
No, but it's like, and they tell you not to have like, they tell you not to like.
I can't do it.
So it's like, even with mushrooms, I never understand how people like do them at concerts and stuff, because it's such a spiritual awakening to a point.
So
like,
mushrooms is connected to spiritual awakenings.
I want to say to a sense, like, I wish I could explain it better. Listen, this thing, like, afterwards, I got up the next day. I said, bitch. Like, I saw my grandmother was talking to me. Because, you know, I've dealt with depression and I've dealt with things. And I literally saw my grandmother at the same age as me. And she was explaining to me. She was like, you don't want to. Because, you know, there were times where I just felt like I didn't want to be here. And she was like, that's not your problem. You need to be stronger for yourself. You need to show up. She was having real conversations with me that I never really wanted to have out loud. And I was like, this shit is trippy as fuck. But then afterwards, I woke up. I like wrote out my core values, tough conversations that I've never wanted to have. I literally had. And I was just like, this right here is trippy. So to me, that helped me, like, that awakening helped me realize. And I don't want to say like everybody should do this. I don't want to make it seem like, you know, whatever. But it honestly helped me deal with stuff.
What's the spiritual guy name again? A shaman?
A shaman.
A shaman.
Listen, I'm going to take you.
With mushrooms. You're going to take me to a shaman with some
but it's like, no, we're going to do it here.
And I'm going to trip out.
No, we're going to do it here. It's like you wear all white with the pillows.
When I tell you it's not a good idea for me, I'm telling you, I took this smallest amount of an edible, and I thought the hotel was trying to kidnap me. And I was in a hotel. Literally, I took it. My friend was like, oh yeah, we're going to take some. I took it. For the first time. I took the edible. It was like I was in Michigan. I was back home in Detroit, and so like weed is kind of legal a little bit. So like they sell them in like these like Skittles. It's like. So anyway, I took it and I checked into my hotel, and when I checked into my hotel, it started to kind of like kick in. So boom, we get out the elevator, and I'm like, where the fuck is my room? Like, where the fuck is my room? Like, I'm like roaming the hallways, like, where the fuck is my room? So they put my room at the dead end.
You took an edible and then was walking around?
I took an edible, but she was making it seem like it was like nothing because it was like 10 milli. It was like the lowest thing, right? But like my hotel room dead ass is at the end. This was back in September. I went home to my friend's Minnie's. He opened up a restaurant. I went to his grand opening. They put my room at the end of the hallway, right? Which was next to the exit door that was like cracked open, right? So I'm like looking like, why the fuck is my room so far like in the corner in the back, and like the light is like flickering? I'm like, oh shit, right? So I get in the room. So I'm telling my friend, like, I'm like, I think the hotel is trying to set me up. So she's like, what? I said, I think the fucking hotel is trying to set me up. She was like, set you up to do what, me? I'm like, I think that they're trying to kidnap me. She was like, kidnap you? I said, yeah, you know, sex trafficking is really real. I think they're trying to fucking kidnap me. She was like, I don't really think they're trying to kidnap you. I'm like, I know they're fucking trying to kidnap me. I'm like, but I'm going to change my flight to leave at 6 a.m. Could you please stay with me until I go to the airport at 4 a.m.? So she's like, okay, I'm going to stay with you. So we get back in the room, and she had to go downstairs to get the food, right? I swear to God, that was the longest 15 minutes of my life. I took like this chair that they had. I propped it up against the door. I had on every latch. I locked every single door to where she was like, what the when she came back, and I was like, who is it? Who is it? Because I was thinking like they were really coming to get me. And she was like, you should never do drugs again. And so in 2020 was my first time doing drugs, and I realized it wasn't for me. I've smoked weed before, but I've never took like an edible, something like you chew and digest, and it's just not for me. Like, you can't control it. You don't know when it hit, and it was just great. I was like so paranoid. I thought those people was trying to kidnap me.
So now I'm at a point like I have a high tolerance, so it doesn't hit me the same. It takes like more dosage, or I got to finish the pack. But being in Los Angeles, I tell people it's easier to get drugs than it is to find a therapist. And I will remember my first time doing edibles was I did Ty Dolla $ign's first event, right, for his album. And
what year was this?
Oh my gosh, it was a few years ago. But it was like his first album. They had me host. And all the stuff there were edibles. And I didn't know what an edible at the time. I was hella green. I ain't know what an edible was. And they were like, yeah, everything is infused. That's the word they kept using. And I'm like, why the fuck they keep using these $10 words with me? Like, okay, cool. I thought they were just, that meant like caramel or some just extra like, you know, foo-foo shit. So then I'm like, okay, so I'm eating the popcorn. I'm eating everything. And somebody was like, you don't want to slow down? I was like, no, I'm greedy. And they were like, okay. Then somebody else was like, no, you should pace yourself. I said, what do you mean pace myself? Like, nigga, this is popcorn. Like, who paces themselves with popcorn?
Like, I'm not watching my figures.
Yeah, I'm like.
But they was telling you to pace yourself because you were going to be
so then
tripping out.
Later, somebody on his team explained to me, they were like, no, it's like an edible. And I'm like, okay, what you mean?
Like, and what is an edible?
And they explained it to me, and I was like, oh. Do you remember in Friday when he felt like he was in the coop and he started tripping? That's literally what I started doing. I started looking at everybody and started doing all of this. I slept in my car right outside the event. Because for some reason, like, I didn't even want to start the car, nothing. I was like, nah, I'm gonna sleep it off for like 2 hours. Woke up the next day, a police officer knocked on my car window, and he was like, are you okay? And I woke up like,
where am I?
I was like, yeah, I'm okay. He was like, are you sure? He was like, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, It took me a minute to realize where I was. And I said, you ain't gonna find me on this shit like this again. But then Coachella happened, and then somebody offered me a cookie. I'm just greedy. And it just takes me a minute.
I know they have it in so many different forms. Like, I went on a trip with people and they like bought it in like honey. And it was like syrup and honey. And like for breakfast, they were dumping honey on their bacon, on their biscuits, on their pancakes. I was literally like, yo, you are a drug addict and you should go seek help. They was like passing. I couldn't believe. First of all, we were in Thailand. So you mean to tell me that you took drugs through the airport?
But it's not that. It's not like that CBD. Serious. It's not like a drug. It's not like heroin or cocaine. No. It's a drug. Lifestyle now.
It's a drug.
No, it's a lifestyle.
That's a drug.
No, that's CBD.
That's a drug.
That's a lifestyle.